you can kill people like this. It gets dangerous. It gets stupid dangerous, and it's probably from some kid writing software code in a cubicle somewhere that's never even drove a truck with a trailer on it. That's just not acceptable when you pay this kind of money for a truck. That's like more than a lot of people's house cost. At this point, I'm not really feeling comfortable with Ford. Hey, welcome back to the channel. I am Tony, and this is Tony's Tractor Adventure. And I'm over at the farm today, and we're getting ready to dump some rock here. You'll see in the video preload, we went and got some rock. Camera's moving around, so Gizmo's laying by my feet. But I kind of want to have a rant with you today. So, the end of 2024, I bought a brand new Ford F-250 Lariat crew cab with sport package, leather seats, very well appointed truck, very nice truck. Something I had planned on keeping for a long time. Prior to that, I had a 2021 Ram 2500, and about 30,000 miles on that truck. The transmission come apart, and I had to rebuild the entire transmission. Other than that, I mean, it's a big other than that, but other than that, that truck was really reliable, and there was an explanation why they had one bad part in the transmission that failed, and they corrected it, and then the new transmissions, once they were rebuilt, they held up. All right, but anyway, so we get this truck, and I'm so excited. Got your new truck, the leather seats, got the new car smell in it. We use our truck for travel. We use our truck for going to Walmart, but we also use our truck for pulling trailers. We have a gooseneck flatbed trailer that's rated at 14,000 pounds. And we have this dump trailer here that's also rated at 14,000 pounds. And while that's important, I want you to understand that we bought the correct truck for the correct situation. I downgraded from a diesel to the 7.3 Godzilla, mainly because the amount of, it's $10,000 more to buy a diesel engine. And then when you add the almost double the price in gas or diesel cost versus gasoline, you have to really, really drive thousands of miles to even break even. Whereas with this gas, I'm getting 12 miles a gallon pulling 14,000 pounds of gravel and trailer, so I'm getting 12 miles to the gallon. So I'm pretty happy with that. Plus, we don't do it all the time. Again, the only way you're gonna it's gonna be beneficial to have a diesel nowadays is if you're pulling something every day. Like I said, half the time we're just running to Walmart or going on a trip or whatever. So we get the truck. I'm so excited. I have trust in this truck. That's the important thing. Trust is important. I have trust in this truck. I had a little failure with my Ram, and it took me a while to build back up to it. But by the time I sold that Ram, I had built confidence in that truck and that platform that it was pretty decent. It was reliable. What needed the work worked. And when I say that, there's things out there, like you have to have your brakes got to work, your tires got to work, your steering's got to work. Those are things, these are things that have to work. They can't not work. They have to work, or people get killed. So I'm 2,500 miles into this truck, and I started noticing a roaring in the rear end. I bring it into the local dealer, great people, not bashing them in any way. I know them, I know some of them a long time. I bring it into the dealer and say, hey, look, my rear end of the truck's making some noise, and it's not bad, but it's my truck, and I can tell from the last 2,500 miles that it's louder now than it was 2,500 miles ago. So they put their most seasoned mechanic on it, I was told, and he didn't hear nothing. He said, it's fine, it's just breaking in. I'm like, it's pretty loud. And just, you guys know my background, I'm my whole entire life, I did maintenance. I went to school for it. I spent my entire military career, 30 years, working on, going to schools and working on heavy maintenance. So I've been trained in a lot of things. The Army will train you in a lot of things when it comes to maintenance. So I had a trip where I had to go like 6 hours one way and 6 hours back, pulling about 12,000 pound load on a trailer through some mountains and whatnot. Well, by the time I got back, that rear end was howling. I mean, it was absolutely howling. And so I bring it back up to the dealer. They look at the truck, and I said, you know, you guys come ride with me. And he's like, I said, can you hear that now? He's like, absolutely, I can hear that now. So it's obviously something's wrong with the rear end. Well, I bring it to the dealer. They get into it. They figure out, okay, it's, you know, this bearing's out in the rear end. It's you know, and Ford doesn't even make the rear ends. So just so you know, Ford doesn't make the rear ends. They buy Dana rear ends. Looks like I think Chevrolet and Ram both use the same rear ends for a lot of situations. But long story short, they take it apart, look at it, and say, okay, we need these parts. They said, hey, it's making some noise, but if you want to just drive it around here, it's not going to make it any worse. So I did carry it home with me, but I just didn't trust it to go on any kind of long trip. So I parked it at the house, and we drove my wife's vehicle. Well, moving forward, those parts were back ordered. So my truck stayed broke, unusable to tow for about 6 weeks. So a month and a half. So to start out with 3,000 miles in, I'm without my truck for useful purposes for the next month and a half. Finally, the parts come in because they were back ordered. The parts were back ordered. So that tells me two things. First off, I was not the only one. That's really what it is. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that had that problem. So a month and a half goes by. The parts come in. The Ford dealer here local, they are amazing. They gut they pull the whole entire rear end apart. They inspect everything. They replaced every part inside the rear differential. I mean, I think I said transmission, but they replaced every part inside the rear differential. Basically, the only thing left over was the housing of the differential. That's the only thing that was left, because metal had got inside the axle and kind of floated around, and there was little marks on all the bearings and all the gears, and it was never going to be right. So they made it right. I will say that my Ford dealer went out of the way. Right now, the rear end is, it's like it's supposed to be. So what you would expect for an axle. I mean, you go buy a used truck with 200,000 miles on it, you don't really think about the axle. You just kind of assume that the axle is still going to be pretty good. The axles just don't go bad hardly at all if they've been serviced. All right, so moving forward, a few months into owning the truck, maybe 6 months or so, I'm starting to have I'm starting to have a little rattle under the dash, my steering column felt loose, or it felt like something was loose in the steering. I could feel it radiating up through, or you could feel the vibration coming up through the shaft, like something was loose in the steering. But it drove perfectly. And there was no wear indication on my tires. My tires were wearing perfectly. So I carried it into the dealer again. This, like I said, this is 8 months after we got it. Just bear with me on the dates. It's not exact. I said, hey, there's something wrong with this. I feel like something's rattling. Well, again, the mechanic comes out, gets into it, says, he drives it around, kept it overnight, calls me the next day and says, hey, it's done. They did an oil change and some other stuff for me while it was there. He said, hey, it's done. We couldn't find that noise. We don't know anything. We can't find anything wrong. So, I'm frustrated because, if it's not okay to be rattling at, but this time it's like 8,000 miles on it or something. It's not even broke in good. Just had its first oil change. 8,000 miles on it, and it's making little noises. It's like looseness. That's just not acceptable when you pay this kind of money for a truck. You expect, I don't want to say Mercedes-Benz quality, but yeah, you expect Mercedes-Benz quality. You really do. So I go on, 10,000 miles, and by this time, this noise is really starting to be noticeable. And then I go on another long trip. So I go on this next long trip, and it's around, there's a road here called 840. It's horrible. It's the most horrible road in the world. It goes around Nashville, Tennessee, and it is just so rough, just so beat up. And when I got back from the trip, that steering column thing was it was the steering column mount is what it was. It was making all kind of noise. Well, I bring it back into the dealer and say, look, guys, there's something wrong with this truck. This is continually getting worse. Well, they go and look it up and like, oh wait, there's a service bulletin. Now there's a service bulletin on it that said some bolts are backing off on the firewall. Well, I bring it in there. They have it in overnight to put to fix the bolts or what. I don't know what they did. I really don't know what they did, but it worked. I brought it back out. It was all tight like it was the day it was new. And I was like, you know, kind of smiling, happy. Drove away. It's like, okay, we got this fixed. Maybe we can get more than, you know, a few miles out of it before something else goes wrong. Guys, I pull into the parking lot of Lowe's. My wife's at Lowe's. I roll the window down, try to roll the passenger window down to say something to her, and the passenger window wouldn't go down. And I'm like, you know, I'm looking at is the window lock on or some kind of lock system? Nothing's on. Everything's right. Then I go messing around with it. And I thought, well, you know, they were just under the steering, you know, they were working on the steering column. Maybe they pulled a wire loose or unplugged something, forgot to plug it back. So I whip out, go back to the Ford dealer, and they said, can you leave it here? So I brought the truck back. They pulled it in there, and they're like, we can't find anything wrong with it. So a few minutes later, so he said, let me look into this. Guy calls me back up and says, hey, there's a service bulletin on this. They just did a software patch, an update over the satellite. So this thing is completely integrated with the satellites. They update the software all the time in this truck through satellite. You're sitting in the yard, whatever, it's still getting updates. Well, so, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. You guys tell me about what you think about that. I know I'm not real sure how I feel about that. But anyway, so while it was at the dealership, Ford sent a satellite a software update over the satellite. And that software had a glitch in it, and it told the computer that there was a fault in the window control. So therefore, I could roll 3 windows down, but the passenger front window, I could not roll down. And I called the Ford dealer, you know, talked to Ford dealer, so what do we do? Or they're gonna like roll it back and fix it? It's like, no, they said that what they're gonna do is they're gonna make a patch correction, and it'll come out in about a month. Well, this is February. So we're talking a month, like mid-February or mid-March is when it's supposed to come out. Well, mid-March comes and my window's still not working. And I'm not bugging these guys because it's not that big of an inconvenience not to be able to roll your passenger window down. Most days I don't even think about it. But so mid-March comes around and goes, and then 1st of April gets there, and I still don't have my passenger window still won't roll up and down. And by this time, I'm kind of getting irritated. Again, you pay this kind of money for a truck, and you expect the windows to roll up and down. I mean, look, electric windows have been figured out for a long time. So guys, this gets don't leave. Please watch this to the end because it gets crazier. It gets dangerous. It gets stupid dangerous, and it's probably from some kid writing software code in a cubicle somewhere that's never even drove a truck with a trailer on it. But while it's in the shop, they said, hey, it's going to update this. Well, it never did. The software patch never come down. So about April the 3rd or so, I call up the Ford dealer and I say, hey, my window doesn't work. And he's like, yeah, we just got this thing in like 2 days ago. Says, bring the truck in and we'll have to manually update the software. I don't know if they rolled the software back or I don't know what they did. So I brought it in. They did the software patch. It updated, and all of a sudden my window would work. I'm like, well, how about that? Got that fixed. My window works. But still, my transmissions went out. Steering column is coming loose. Software causes like components to not work. At this point, I'm not really feeling comfortable with Ford. You want a sense of I can trust my vehicle to do what it needs to do. And at this point, I'm not feeling that as much. Well, then they said while I was there, he said, hey, we got a trailer control module update that needs to be done. You want us to do it while it's here? And I'm like, sure, go ahead. So they go ahead and do this trailer control module. Nothing else about it. Drove away, picked the truck up, drove away. And the next day I put on my new dump trailer back here. And I'm driving down the road with I don't know, 10,000 pounds of gravel and then the trailer. So 14,000 pounds, pretty much 14,000 pounds of weight. I come to a stoplight, and I'm not making this up. I come to a stoplight and I hit the brakes, and warning thing comes on the dash and it says, warning, trailer brake controller fault. My rear trailer brakes just stopped working. I mean, my truck had to stop all of that. And luckily I was not going fast. I don't drive fast generally as a rule, but I'm always pretty cautious driver. But you know, some people are not, and you see them come up there like that. What happens when you're coming up to a stoplight with 14,000 pounds of weight behind you, going too fast, and all of a sudden your trailer brakes just don't work, right? Well, in that same instance, like the trailer brake says, you know, warning, trailer brake fault, check your owner's manual. And then, which the owner manual didn't say nothing. You go to, and I get the trailer truck under control and get it coming to a stop. And at that same stop light, the light, or another light pops up, says warning, trailer lights fault, see your owner's manual. So I get stopped at this light. I make the turn. I go pull off on the side of the road, and I thought, you know, first thing I think of is maybe I didn't plug my trailer brakes in good. So, and maybe, you know, it's just doing what it's supposed to be doing. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, hey, they just did that software update. It all worked prior to them doing that software update. What's the odds that they messed up? Well, I get out, unplug the trailer brake, plug it back up, and the lights start working again correctly, and the brakes work. I thought, okay, it's just me. You know, dismissed it. So it was just me. I didn't plug them in good. That was not the case. I come on down the road to turn into the farm, and then the lights come on again, saying that the trailer brake don't work, and then the turn signals and brake lights don't work. This time I'm really frustrated. So I call Ford dealer up and say, hey man, my trailer light's not working, what's going on? And it's like, hey, we got a service bulletin saying that, you know, there's something wrong with the patch that they put out on the trailer. That's not okay. You can't turn people's brakes on the trailers off. Now, you got the people that are, and that's what I said earlier, it's probably some kid in a cubicle somewhere writing this code for this thing that's never had a trailer behind it. Could be wrong. If you do know what you're doing and you did this, well, shame on you. But you can kill people like this. Where I'm coming up to a load, this thing, I'm coming down a steep hill, and all of a sudden my trailer brakes don't work, and I got 13,000 pounds of weight behind me, 14,000 pounds of weight pushing me, and you know that's not an ideal situation to be in for sure. What about a kid runs out in front of you and you have to get on your brakes? Well, long story short, they said, hey, there's a fault, and then like 3 days after this happened, I get a thing in the mail like, you know, hey, service bulletin, you know, warning, your trailer brakes might not work, your trailer lights not work. You know, this is safety stuff. You're talking about making you not trust a piece of equipment. Now, I don't know when I come to a light, if I push the brakes, are my trailer brakes gonna work? So I get up, they said they're gonna put a patch out over the satellites again. So I get up the next morning, I go out there, I turn my truck on, and the truck starts, but the screen stays dark. And what it does when it does that is it's rebooting. So basically, they downloaded the software. When I cranked the truck up, it restarted the computer and installed the new software. Then everything come back up. However, it didn't fix the problem. Same thing happened where the trailer light, basically, what would happen is it would kick on the trailer brake fault, and the trailer brakes would quit working for a split second. You would feel like the truck would lunge forward because the brakes didn't work, and then they would kick back on, and you'd feel it like yank you, right? So you felt the brakes yank. So I guess they fixed the fault where that it would at least turn the brakes on even after it was a fault. So then over the next few days, probably I think it's like 6 days we've been through, where I would get out, I crank the truck up, and the screen would be dark for, you know, not every day, but one day you go out there and crank it up and the screen would be dark for a while, and then it would reboot and start up, and finally everything seems to be back working. Just so you know what I did as a mechanic, I took my trailer and hooked it up to my wife's truck, which has a 7-pin plug. I checked all the lights. Everything works. I took her truck and put it to the gooseneck and checked it. Everything works. The lights work. Obviously, I can't check the brakes. They don't have a brake controller. But the lights worked. So I pull the, you know, during that time frame, I also pulled the gooseneck trailer. So both of them had the trailer fault and the brake fault click on. So it's not the trailer issue. And both of them one plugged in the bed plug-in and one plugged in the bumper plug-in. So it's definitely was a trailer module software fault. But it's all fixed now and it works. But what, you know, How am I supposed to feel comfortable, confident that I'm not going down the road with a big heavy load through the city, pulling a tractor or something, and somebody pulls out in front of me and I can't stop? That's what's in my mind all the time now. It's really frustrated me and made me anxious to drive my truck with a heavy load. Things have got to work. Steering's got to work. Tires have got to work. Brakes have got to work. And if those don't work, you know, you can do without your air conditioner. You can do without your electric window. You can do without your radio. Those things are not safety issues. However, those things that happen, brakes, tires, steering go bad, bad things can happen. Listen, guys, I really want your input on this. I know this is a long video, a lot of ranting, but I really would like to know what you think on this. Or would you have confidence in your vehicle after something like this? I'm not looking for my money back. I'm not looking for anything other than I just kind of wanted to rant. I think if you pay this kind of money for a vehicle, I don't care if you pay a lot less money for a vehicle, steering, brakes, and your tires should always work, right? No questions asked. That's some bare minimum. Listen, guys, God bless. Have a great day.